We're here at the beautiful Randjiesfontein training establishment, North Rand, Gauteng, and it is my job to try and give you a balanced approach as to the horses that will participate in this year's VODACOM Durban July, seeing that Michelle Wing in KwaZulu-Natal does an outstanding job of keeping all those horses domiciled at Summerveld well covered. And it's interesting to note that the last 4 winners of the VODACOM Durban July have come out of Summerveld, and I refer to the Mike Bass-trained Marinaresco, rather Candice Bass Robinson, let's get that straight. The Conglomerate, also a horse by the name of Legislate, and a horse called Power King. They were all trained at Summerveld. But before that was a horse called Heavy Metal, who used the Jubilee as his final preparation going into the VODACOM Durban July. Of course, we've seen horses like Ipitombi and Grazing, and even a horse like Igugu. There have been many horses that have won it from Gauteng. And you can even go back as far as 1996, where London News won the Centennial race, trained by Alexander Garrett-Led. He was trained up here at Randjiesfontein and obviously went to Summerveld. Then the next year, it was David Ferraris' turn with Super Quality, who was definitely trained up here in Gauteng, and so too was Classic Flag. This particular weekend was very, very important for Gauteng Raiders. The strange thing about the Rising Sun Gold Challenge was that there was a horse called Liege that was supposed to participate but was not allowed to run because he had not barrier trialled. He subsequently ran on the Sunday in a pinnacle plate, which is not ideal for Sean Tarry, but we'll speak to Sean Tarry in due course to find out how his prep has gone. Tilbury Fort was beaten in the shadow of the post, a whisker, by the up-and-coming Yakim from the Mike de Kock stable. And Social Order also ran a cracking race in the Jubilee. And there's very good, strong collateral form with Social Order and Coral Fever, if you take a look at their form lines. But during the course of the next few days, we're going to be chatting to Sean Tarry, and we're going to be chatting to Matthew de Kock, we're going to be chatting to Michael or Adam Azzi. We'll also speak to Jeff Woodruff, and we'll speak to Robbie Sage about the Gauteng chances of winning this year's VODACOM Durban July. In tonight's program, first up, Sean Tarry. I would think that you must be very, very well pleased with the result of the Jubilee Handicap.
Yes, obviously we would have been excited if it went our way. Went down photo finish and didn't get the verdict, but well done to the winners. Tilbury ran a very, very good race. He finished his race off well. In terms of a prep for the July, I really couldn't have asked for much more than what he did.
Let's come back to Tilbury Fort for the simple reason that we're standing in front of the son of Count Dubois, Social Order, who ran in the same race, absolutely cracking run as well.
Yeah, I think he's a big runner in the July. He's run at level weights to the horse that's number 1 on the log. With all the scratchings, he's bound to have come in, obviously, into the top 18, I would say.
And Social Order is also taken off on the outside. Het Puntana and Social Order. Het Puntana, big payday. Social Order.
But I think the important part about yesterday's run was the fact that he hadn't run since March. And I think I just needed to show, first of all, the horse's well-being. And second of all, he needed the run, you know, just in terms of a prep. So I think he's done everything asked of him. He got caught 3 deep. May have hit the front a little early, but in terms of showing his well-being and a prep run, I was very, very pleased. I don't think he necessarily had to qualify on yesterday's run. I think he was probably in before that.
So I'm making the assumption that you know these rules well. In terms of the number of days that he hadn't been on the track, he probably wouldn't have had to barrier trial.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't have had to barrier trial. I wasn't there to try and cement a position. I'm there to get him into the race with the best possible prep. It was a lovely prep run. I'm very well pleased, and yeah, I have to leave it there.
Second place is Coral Fever. Wind Chill all the while's going about her business. Then comes Abashiri. Finchatten was next. Now Coral Fever makes his presence felt from Fort Ember. Wind Chill, Abashiri and Social Order, but Coral Fever is carrying too many guns, and Coral Fever won.
The same race has produced a horse called Yakim, who's very much on an upward spiral. Looks like a talented horse, and in a way sad for Lyle Hewitson that he didn't bag his first grade 1 and the Jubilee. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a hard worker. He deserves it, and Tilbury Fort was anything but disgraced.
Yes, very excited that Lyle's got that Group 1 win under his belt. Can only help his confidence. I think he did everything right. The stable companion may have inconvenienced him on the turn, which maybe cost him a half a length or a length. But it is what it is. You know, the panel will either say that he's done enough to get in, or they weren't happy with that. So the horse has been very, very well prepared for this race. We obviously have always rated the horse, but he needed to be gelded, which he's done. He was very unlucky not to be 3 from 3 since being gelded. And in terms of his preparation, another very, very good prep into the July, and no question marks.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I remember there was a time when we were talking about Tilbury Fort as a 3-year-old, having run in all those classics. You said to me, well, we're glad he got in, but really all the owners wanted to do was have a runner, knowing full well that he needed to be gelded.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically the topic of conversation last year, this time. I'm saying we need to geld the horse, and the guys were saying, well, we'd really love to try and get him into the July. Well, we managed to run in the July, but he did need gelding. Took his place in the Summer Cup, and then we really decided enough is enough, and gelded him, and certainly has had the desired effect.
Horses get gelded for different reasons. Was he hemo-concentrating? Was he heavy? What was your thinking? Was he cultish?
He wasn't moving as he should be moving, first of all. And second of all, he's not the easiest horse in running, and he wasn't settling nicely. So those were the two main reasons. But, you know, I think we've seen benefits all round, and a decision that should have been made some time ago.
Okay, now on to Matador Man. Now, he's a horse that ran 3rd in the Grade 1 last season, more or less the same time of the year, Champions Cup behind Sal South. Fantastic run, and his prep has come along nicely.
Matador Man is definitely a Durban horse. That's why we've left him in Durban. He raises his game good few pounds at Greyville. Yeah, he finished on a very high note last season. Just didn't reproduce it in Joburg. Having said that, his debut in KZN again this season was very, very good. He was running on strongly, inconvenienced for a while. I think maybe would have had a say in the finish, but had done enough as a prep run, and he's come along the right way. He's had a gallop this morning. He will have another gallop or two going into the race. Everything's gone as expected.
Matador Man needs some running room. Dark Moon Rising's on the outside. Coming to the last 200 now. Crowd Pleaser. And here's Elusive Silver with a big run. Elusive Silver hits the front over the last 100 meters. Dark Moon Rising's a runner on the outside. Elusive Silver's clinging on. And Elusive Silver has won it. Second, Dark Moon Rising. It's close.
And then the Sansui Summer Cup winner, Liege. I mean, he's got everything going for him. He just hasn't had the right race to prep him for.
Well, I think it's public knowledge at this stage that Liege was not supposed to run on Sunday, he was supposed to run on Saturday. Quite ironic that a horse could run on Sunday in one province and yet not able to run in another province the day before. But having said that, we understand the rules, we may not agree with them. I made the mistake of assuming that a Group 1 horse from out of town, where was he going to barrier trial? And obviously we are trying to encourage national competition in these Group 1s, and I made an assumption, I was wrong. We had to then find a alternative plan, drawn poorly in a 1400, which is way too short for him, in the winter going. He's a horse that likes to run up handy. We could never ever try and make use of him from the poor draw. However, what did the race serve? It only served that we don't have to barrier trial. So that barrier trial story is out the way for the July, and he'll be prepared accordingly.
A little bit slow on the uptake, Mr. Bond, but I've managed to get the gist of this whole thing, that Liege was actually supposed to run in the Rising Sun Gold Challenge. He had a good draw. It's a classic prep.
Classic prep, and bearing in mind that we're at the coast and we are 200 meters extra in a small field, which would have made a difference for him, not having to be as far back as he was. But the bottom line is you're changing a whole lot of things in terms of preparation. But as I said, we were bound. I couldn't go fresh into the race. I had to run him. in a race that I didn't really want to run him, but it was the last opportunity, and we've run him. So we are now legit.
I think it's quite interesting, really, when you think about the barrier trial situation, where you would have to take him all the way to Durban to barrier trial in order to make him eligible. And then what do? Do you bring him back? Or do you leave him there?
Yeah, what's the formula? I mean, what is the formula? So now, what's ideal? Do we take him down a month before, which would never have suited our plans, and barrier trial him and bring him back? Or do you go down and barrier trial him a week before, like I've done with bulleting home? I don't have the formula, because I don't think too many people have done it. I don't think too many people have thought about doing it. So, yeah, I don't have the answer. I know I'm a professional, but I don't have that answer in what the ideal timing is and how we should go about it in future. But it is a bit mind-boggling that a horse qualifies to run on a Sunday but doesn't qualify on the Saturday, bearing in mind we're in the same country, same international rules apply, same punting population. It is mind-boggling.
Down the inside is Liege, who's picked up the advantage from in second position for Timber. On the outside of those is Girl on the Run, Coral Fever. Further back to Master Switch, and behind those they've got 100 to go. Liege is in front. On the outside Coral Fever, then for Timber, but it's Liege in the Gauteng Sansui Summer Cup has won it.
One of the conditions of the Vodacom Durban July are public gallops. It's a big deal in Natal. Sticky buns and coffee, everybody loves going there. Sometimes there are more people at the gallops than there are at regular race meetings. I don't know why, but it's great fun. This means that your horses that are in that province will gallop at Greyville. That's my assumption, a horse like Matador Man. The rest of them will have to gallop here at Randkiesfontein, as we've done in the past with Al Sahem, etc., etc. What have you laid out in terms of the plan and when you will gallop those horses?
Yes, well, I think you have to gallop, obviously, it's part of the conditions, and they normally want to show those races. Often, logistically, it doesn't work out, and I've galloped my horses, and we haven't even seen those gallops on race day. So I think the right thing to do is probably gallop them a few days earlier, that everything's in place, that you know, the logistics of showing those gallops are guaranteed, and I think that would probably be best for all.
Okay, now I know you'd be happy with any one of these horses winning. But at this moment in time, what does Sean Tarry really think? Is there so little between these horses, or do you have one horse that you think has really got the heavy metal Pomodoro win in him?
Let's be honest, the two classic preps for this race that have been very, very successful, barring the 3-year-old classics, have been the Greyville 1900 and the Jubilee. And I feel that I've had two very good preps in both. I think Bound by Honor ran 5th in the Jubilee. He ran Pocket Power and Dancer's Daughter to a length in the July. He ran 3rd. So I've had tremendous success out of the Jubilee, and I think a good few winners have obviously come from the Greyville 1900. I'm obviously not talking about the 3-year-old classics because I don't have a 3-year-old in the race. But I think I've got it well covered in that I've got, from those two races alone, 3 horses that come in with a really low weight, older horses that have trialled very well. So I think we've got it covered.
Well, we certainly hope that you've enjoyed this evening's interview with Sean Tarry, giving you his insight into why he thinks his horses should be in this year's Vodacom Durban July. Not least of all their merit rating, their great performances like Liege winning the Sansui Summer Cup, like Tilbury Fort's run in the Jubilee, like Social Order's run in the Jubilee, and all his other collateral form, bearing in mind that the blinkers certainly have worked wonders for the son of Count Dubois. The fact that the gelding has done an enormous amount of good for Tilbury Fort, and the fact that Matador Man just happens to be a much better horse in KwaZulu-Natal than he is up here in the Highveld, if you take a look at his Grade 1 performance at the end of last season in the Champions Cup. For myself, Andrew Bond, on behalf of Breeding to Win, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to the next update for the Vodacom Durban July, South Africa and Africa's greatest thoroughbred horse race.